off here, but that'll work. You okay with that light?
Yeah, man, you look great.
Okay, good. Option is white. Option is yellow. Let's go yellow. Good. All right.
Do you have your little circle light?
I got my circle. I go, yeah, totally.
So do I.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew, thank you so much for being here. And for those listening, Andrew and I started to you can just tell is the soul this man has. Like, honestly, just in the first couple minutes of him being on, we started to hit it off, and I was like, wait, we're already getting into it. Let's stop for people listening so we can give you all the value possible from Andrew Newman. Andrew, this is the question I ask everybody when they first come on. When you wake up in the morning today in your life, what is it that makes your heart just sing out loud for the day that's ahead of you?
I love the question, Justin. And in part, the creativity that I get to play in is truly my playground and what I look forward to the most. But I also don't want to answer that question jumping over the fact that I've got 25 years of not jumping out of bed singing about anything, right? Or little things that I could sing about, but where the day feels like it's on top of me. And that thing that I want to sing about, that little piece of creativity, has got to get squeezed into the tiniest little corner of my life. And I just want to say that that's very real for me and for a lot of people. And I'm grateful that it's turned, and that now I can dedicate a lot more time to my creative expression. But it just also to say, this is what, you're about real life, and this is what real can look like sometimes. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, man. You brought something up. You said creativity. I didn't consider myself very creative for many years. I did have a business and stuff, but I didn't think I was the most creative. Meditation, like a Tony Robbins event plus a daily meditation, like opened up something inside my brain that just changed forever. And that was why, and now I totally consider myself creative. I feel like I'm creating all kinds of things. And that's why I had to reach out to you, because I grabbed your 3 books. And for the people watching on video, I grabbed 3 because I got an Instagram ad. So your targeting worked on the Instagram ad, Andrew. And I got The Boy Who Searched for Silence. Was the first one. How Diablo Became a Spirit. And then my son is taking a nap right now, and The Hug That Lost His Way is in his room.
The hug who got stuck right there.
Stuck. There it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Before we talk about the specific topics of these books, I know you had a TEDx talk, and most of my listeners probably haven't listened to it, or maybe they have. I'm not going to assume that. But what is it about the last 20 minutes of the day? Because I always talk about the first 30 minutes, about how important the first 30 minutes is to set yourself up for the day, and how your brain's almost in like a hypnosis when you wake up. What is it about the last 20 minutes? We've actually really rarely touched on this in this podcast.
Right. I say in my TED talk that I don't even think that the last 20 minutes of today belongs to today. I think it belongs to tomorrow. And so, when you're saying, what are you doing with the first 30? I'm like, I get that. But it's like that first 30 actually started before you went to sleep. Our brain is integrating and doing so many things whilst we're asleep that are so helpful for our well-being. And if we can set it up right, it gets 8 hours of doing that. And I mean, my classic example is if you've ever been to sleep on an argument, hoping that argument will be gone by the morning, you're probably going to have the most restless night, and you're going to be quietly arguing inside yourself all night long whilst trying to sleep. And so if that's the negative that we can see sometimes more clearly than the positive, let's also consider the positive. If you set up that rested state, the calmed body, the relaxed mind, the clear day before you go into sleep, then you're working with a positive neural network formation process during sleep, as opposed to the defensive one, which is trying to work out how to make yourself safe, how to respond to a difficult thing in the world. It's like it takes a lot of energy to do that.
So do you, and maybe research on this, or people that have information on it, but do you think, or do you know that like it isn't really like the whole day that's affecting us and how we're sleeping at night, but like a big impact is the last 20 or 30 minutes of the night? Has the majority of what goes on in our brain when we're sleeping?
No,
Can you
I
almost
don't.
like reset it? Like if you have a terrible, actually, let me tell you, if I feel like a horrible, the day is just going all wrong, and I just take those last 20, 30 minutes and I change it completely. Can that shift what goes on in my brain at night when I'm sleeping, you think?
Yes, yes, and I think some of the science on this is still emerging. But in my work, in training as a healer, working as a healer, helping people therapeutically, learning about trauma, learning about belief system formation, what's clear is that we always, all of our frights, all of our struggles, all of our trauma, they actually happen when we're awake. And then when we're asleep, our brain is doing something with that experience in order to typically create more ongoing safety. We're trying to create the strategy that we can apply repeatedly in order to not feel the pain that we felt earlier in the day. And so, this is a big subject, but what I don't want to do is I don't want to segment life into day and night. And I think we do that. It's one continuity, it's one stream of living. And it just happens to be that we have these transition points that we go from awake to asleep, and we can use that transition point, and we go from asleep to awake, and the first 30 minutes of the day, we can use that, and they set us up for for a better life experience in simplicity. I'm geeking out on this, and I this is like it got really interesting for me because it got so challenging for me to go to sleep. Even as a kid, and then as an adult, avoid going to sleep, watch another episode, sit on my phone. You climb into sleep feeling a little bit like, oh, the day beat me, and I didn't win anything. Then when I wake up the next day, I'm already wrong-footed. And so I started to see, what can I do to right foot the start of my day by paying attention to how it ends the night before.
And you said, let's write some kids' books so that children's books so that children can feel this too, right? Not just adults. And I think that I love the idea of teaching kids this mindfulness stuff early so they don't have to unlearn a bunch of stuff like us, older adults have to. Is that why you like you could have written adult books, you could have written, why did you choose children? Like, what was there a passion there?
In some way, it was a simplicity, and I was following a simplicity. I used to write poetry. One day, I wrote a poem, and I thought it needed some pictures. That book turned into my very first story, A Little Light, in which literally we say, this little light, he started to grow and learned all the things he needed to know, but some of them were wrong and blocked up his flow. And so you just talked about unlearning. This is it. We learn some things wrong, and then we have to unlearn them, and we have to find another way. I see the world simply. I like color. I like short and focused, and kids' books let me do that. I didn't yet, I was literally just following my creativity, and I didn't yet know when I was doing this that I was going to end up where I am today with 16 books, and with a collection, and with a brand, and with with a message. I didn't have any of that access. All I had was this creative spark in me, and I really have a deep encouragement for following the creative impulse, because look where it led me. This is amazing. Where's yours going to take you?
Yeah, it's almost, when you say that, it's almost reminding kind of like stacking, right? You're just like, do this creative thing, and follow this path and keep going along that. And now look where you are. It's really incredible. I have so many questions I want to ask in regards to this. So let me actually go right into the actual books. And then I want to get a little bit, actually, let's talk about you. I want to know, Andrew, I want people listening, what is the Andrew that created this? Where did that creativity come from? You said there was 20 or so years where you didn't have that wake up and that nighttime routine, or whatever you want to call it. What happened there? Was there an event?
There is an event. Probably one of the biggest events in my life was stepping out of a fourth generation family jewelry business. That was my history. That's what I was born into. I'm a South African. I grew up under the apartheid era. Things were pretty controlling, but tight, very loving family, but with very little emotional language. Certainly, in the 80s, the term emotional intelligence got coined. It didn't even exist when I was a child, and so when I left the family business, which was a major reorientation at 27, 28 years old, I knew that I needed to change how I was in the world. It wasn't just about what I wanted to do. It was like, how do I want to be? Mm-hmm. And that was in a way the start of my quest. And I stumbled very gratefully across Reiki at some stage, which then again wasn't detailed enough for me. It was a wonderful experience. I was helping people, and I was like, but I don't know what I'm doing.
So you became a Reiki master, kind of like.
I did, but even I did Reiki 1 in some guy's house in London, and then I lived in a backpackers, and I gave free Reiki sessions away, and I did 35 sessions in 60 days with Reiki 1, and I knew nothing about anything, and we were drinking a good single malt scotch, and who am I kidding? We were drinking the cheap stuff. We didn't have any money then, and then at the same time doing these little Reiki sessions, and they were so transformative for me, because nobody had ever told me that I could influence and affect not only other people but myself. I was doing a lot of self-healing, a lot of like hand positions on the body, a lot of feeling how I could calm my interior. And I was like, it was almost like, oh my God, I've got an interior. I was like, I didn't even know that, or I certainly didn't know how to find it. I wasn't creative. No one had nurtured my creativity. I had a sort of a kind heart that had been well hidden underneath the bullying of boys' schools and the teasing and the kind of the institutionalization. And I wasn't really connected to myself. I'd kind of done everything that I should do. And Reiki was a real turning point for that. And I then decided that I needed to study more in the healing space. And it took me into a 4-year training with the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. She's very well known for a book called Hands of Light. And that changed everything. That was when I first started therapy, when I had to be in therapy to be in the school. It's one of the agreements, because you change so quickly. And I was learning about developmental psychology. I was learning about these belief systems, but not from an intellectual only perspective, but from a perspective of me and how I was carrying them and how I needed to change them. And yeah, I mean, it really was a game changing those 4 years.
You know, Andrew, when you talk about, I hear this so often, like when somebody has this, like, I don't know, epiphany or realization through some sort of a spiritual tool like meditation or Reiki or Tai Chi or whatever it's going to be, then they just feel this draw eventually to share it with others. And that's what you did. And now you're like in the superpower like of yourself. And you kept talking about inside yourself. I noticed in the books, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like when I'm reading these to my kids, which for people listening, like, it's so cool to read these. In the middle of reading the hug book the first time, like I was in the middle of it, and my daughter turned around and she goes, looks at me, smiles, and she just reaches and gives me a hug. And she's like, I just wanted to give you a hug. And it was like the best moment. Like it was a moment that I'll remember for a long time. Those moments like that, right? Yeah. But in the books, I noticed it seems like the character seems like it's striving for something, it's going after something, it's chasing something, it's looking for something, and then all of a sudden, when they're just so tired of it and kind of surrender, that's when the transformation of that character happens.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that the theme in these books that you've created, and how does that translate to our adult life?
Well, let me share a couple more titles for listeners. So we've got the fish who searched for water, which when it was originally written, it was titled "The Fish Who Nearly Drowned in His Search for Water."
Oh boy.
So, yeah, I know.
Just
Like,
traumatizing kids all over the.
a little bit dramatic. We've got the prayer who searched for God. We've got the bee who could not choose her flower. We've got the boy who searched for silence. So yes, you're naming the questing in the hug story that you're talking about. There's little hugs coming out of the door of the heart, where the hug factory is. I mean, everybody knows that hugs are made in the hug factory in the middle of the heart. And
is that what is the hug? What's in a hug factory? Is that?
Yeah. What's in the hug factory? I mean,
are there employees? What's going on in there?
There's baby hugs growing in a forest of trees that's hydroponically drip fed by stardust, rainbow light, and a basket of warm, fuzzy feelings.
I knew that before you even said it. I knew that.
And each hug, and it says here, page 8, like each hug is freshly made and specially encoded with just the right amount of love and care to delight the heart that it's made for. But being a hug wasn't always easy. Sometimes a lonely thought or bad feeling would trap a hug in a sticky web. So there's your setup, right? What have we got? We've got love come pouring out of the heart, and we've got this web of sticky thoughts. This is every human on the planet is going to do the head-heart dilemma in their lives. And they're going to have to learn how to work with that and to choose where they want to orient themselves and how to balance it. And then speaking about the struggle, in the moment of that story, this hug is fighting. And then it sighed helplessly. It stopped wriggling, stopped squirming, and stopped fighting. In that moment, something magical happened. And so this is what you're talking about, this moment of surrender, or this moment of going, I've been pushing so hard and striving and searching and questing. And I love your question about this. Is this kind of like true to life? Is this what we have to do? And it's like, we don't actually have to fight until this point where we collapse into surrender. We can choose surrender earlier. We can ask for help earlier, spiritually and or relationally, if there's any difference between those two. And yet we can't solve a problem from the same consciousness level that we create the problem. We need to have some space for a new level of consciousness to reveal itself, to show itself, to come in and support. And that's what a moment of surrender allows. There's this like, I give up, and something new shows itself out of the corner of our eye that we couldn't see because we were so focused on doing it in one particular way. And that something new is everything towards the relief and the restoration and the return back to a healthier place after that quest.
Oh, I love that. We can't solve the initial issue from the same level of consciousness that we created it at. Right. Is that, Rob, what you said?
That's not my line. I don't even know whose it is. It's like something I've been aware of for a long time.
Right.
And but that's right. If we think the same way we've always been thinking, we're going to get the same result. We're going to need something new to come in. Like I mean, it sounds like you had a wonderful peak experience with your 5 or 6 days, Tony Robbins, then, with your introduction to meditation. All of a sudden there was something new that was influencing you, and it changed the course of your life.
Yeah. And I needed therapy to get through it, because I was like, what the heck? Who is this person that just got cracked open inside of me? Who is, like, what is going on right now? Right. Just like you mentioned, right? You had to, like, they made you go to therapy and it was that why? Because, and I know we're jumping around, but I forgot I wanted to ask that, like, is that why you, because I know there's, when it comes to relationships, I've had and had this conversation with several individuals. One person's growing spiritually or whatever, however you want to say it, self-development, whatever, way faster on a different path than the other person. And it creates a lot of conflict. But what about the conflict inside of us that's created to help us, right, recognize what we're going through and what's actually happening? Is that why they wanted you to go to therapy?
In a way. I mean, I like the way you said that. I feel like similar to what we've just spoken about, consciousness, it's really helpful to have someone who's a little bit further down the path, who has done their work perhaps more deeply than you've done yours, who can therefore, because they've done that work, hold a space into which you can emerge. And it's this little I would love for us to spend an hour talking about the therapeutic relationship. I don't hear any conversation about that. And I think it's fascinating. What is it that's happening in a therapeutic relationship? But in a way, I know that I needed to learn what my own triggers were, learn how to be non-reactive in the event that they were being activated. Because if you and I are sitting together and you're my client, and you go into a reactive triggered state, which is normal, because you're working with a vulnerable edge of growth, and I go into reactive triggered state at the same time, then actually nobody's present and healing can't happen. So healing happens when there's one grounded presence that for that moment has a little more gravitas that can hold the space for the other who is still growing into that.
It almost sounds like it gives you permission almost. And I never even thought about that. So many people go to therapy with the thought of, okay, yeah, I need to, work on this or work on myself here and there, and never really think about the nuance or the connection between you and the therapist, right? Like you said, that's really interesting topic. Really interesting.
And the topic's it's exactly the same topic for the parent-child relationship. So let's do the pivot here. This is like you're a parent, you want to support your kids in growing and being themselves as fully as possible. You're a little bit further down the path than they are on some aspects, but not all. or not all the time, not in every moment. And this is the thing. Sometimes your child will be super present in a way when you've lost your rag, and it's like, oh my God. And they're just like Zen for whatever reason in that moment.
And then you get even more angry. You're like, how are you like this? And I'm like this. What is happening right now? I'm the adult. And then you have to change your level of consciousness, like you said earlier, right? To yes. Adjust.
Yeah. And so one of the reasons all of the books start with a 4 breaths and a breathing practice. Now I'll invite us to do that together in a second. But one of the reasons we do that is just to have a meeting point in a way so that equality can happen, in a way so that consciousness can flow. It's like let's be connected.
Can I stop you right there? Please. Because you just made a light bulb go off in my brain. First off, I didn't even do you have kids?
Not yet.
Has anybody ever criticized you for writing kids books and you don't have kids?
There's been a question around it more than
like everybody has give you heat or whatever.
there's also there's a lot of praise. It's like, wow, you're going to be a great dad. I'm like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
That is the angle that I would take. Totally. Okay. So we're not even going to go there, but the light bulb that went off, right, is so many times as parents, say, here's what happens, which I'm sure nighttime comes and we're just like, let's get this nighttime over with. Let's get this bedtime over with. I want to get my 2 hours by myself. Like, this is a day has been long, especially stay-at-home moms, dads, people are working from home now with COVID. I just want to get this over with. And we're putting them to bed with us, keep thinking about when it's over instead of being present, first off. And then the second thing, and why I love those breaths is why I want to stop you, is I just want a light bulb went off. That is that centering point, like you said, and I'm reiterating what you said because I want people to hear this, that can bring the chaos and the us thinking, oh, I want this over, with, and bring the child and parent together in that moment to start that, we all read to our kids at night, that book. And sometimes I find myself, I think a lot of parents can relate, saying, literally, this happened last night. All right, Weston, I'm reading this book without you. I'm starting right now. Okay, here we go. And I start reading, right? And then I'm angry reading. I'm annoyed. He's still running around. He's catching my energy. I'm catching his, and it does nothing. And those 4 breaths, I think, if we can get on that pattern, it's amazing. So keep going with that.
So let me introduce the snuggle breathing meditation. You'll hang out and do this with me, Jason.
Yeah, let's do it.
So they're 4 simple breaths. I'll tell you what they are. I breathe for me, I breathe for you, I breathe for us, and I breathe for all that surrounds us. So this will, particularly for mums, there's a way that being a mum is a fundamental shift of identity from before when you were a mum. And I breathe for me is a statement of permission for you to be yourself, not to be a mum. Just be you, right? Be that you that sure, you're going to have some roles, but it's like, just be you. So often hand on the heart is a natural place for me. And then I go, breathing in, I breathe for me. I breathe for you. I breathe for us. And I breathe for all that surrounds us.
And I repeated those in my mind after you said them. It's so funny. As soon as you do those 4 breaths, like my voice went quieter. My like whole demeanor just goes down some notches, just relaxes.
Yeah, absolutely. My agenda has changed. And I say that there's a way, like, we've been talking and we've been quite like let's go, right? Which I love. I love that energy. And if you happen to be transitioning to sleep, or you're trying to get to a deeper part of yourself to find out what it is that needs to be shared, then these breaths can help you do that. And I actually start all my business meetings with them. My accountant and I do them. It's a transition tool. And so it's yours. Use it.
Yeah, it's powerful, and it's subconsciously powerful, because it's not like I was trying to do anything. I just followed along, and for you guys listening, I mean, it just happened naturally where we just kind of went down. What it reminds me of, those statements, those affirmations: I breathe for me, I breathe for you, I breathe for us, I breathe for everybody,
all that surrounds us.
all that surrounds us. It reminds me of like a metta meditation. Are you familiar with those?
I will have come across many. So
like a loving kindness meditation,
yes,
where you bring in love and kindness to yourself, for me, and then for somebody that you love, so for you, or for us, and then so it's like, and then you reach out from there, so them, and then everybody else you send out love and kindness to. So it just reminds me of and that's my favorite meditation. So that was cool.
Yeah, it's quietly a tool for, merging codependency, whatever our language is around this thing that happens when a family is all in one space, all the time, all together, which is COVID, right? And it's kind of, we can sometimes just lose our individuality to the group. Like a mum will lose it into her role, a woman will lose it into her role as a mum, and then need to reclaim it at some stage. This is a developmental thing. It's going to very likely happen, and that's okay. So let's locate everybody. Now, I'm here. So I'm like the airplane, you put your own oxygen mask on first. So here I am now. Oh, there you are. So I'm going to breathe for you. Now I'm here and you're there. We just created 2 things out of an amorphous blob of the family, the togetherness. I'm here, you're there. And because of that, we can see that there's a relationship. The relationship illuminates itself. Here's us. Now let's look at us directly and give it its right place. And its right place has things that are happening around us. So there's quite a lot for the metaphysicians in the audience who like this sort of thing. A lot of this is work that I learned in a non-dual Kabbalistic healing space, where I started to learn about individuation and location.
What about a lot of what we're talking about, it's reading to the kids, but it keeps coming back to us adults, having this groundedness, having this centeredness too, so that, we can be real life examples for what we're trying to instill into them. Right. What is what does your meditation practice look like today? Do you have one?
It's varied a lot over time. The one that I have had the strongest affinity to is the work of Sri Sri Ravi Shankar and the Art of Living Foundation. They do a Kriya-based, breath-based movement meditation with a number of the Indian gurus or sages used to say, you know, the Western mind particularly is not ready for meditation. We need to prepare it. And whether it was Osho jumping up and down or these guys doing like arms up, down, breath work, it would then get us to a Shavasana type of post-yoga state where you can lie for 2 minutes. That's the meditation, that moment where it's like, like that's the everything if we can get there. And so that's been one of my very deep influences. And I am the guy who my creativity is my meditation. So I also make sure that that's in, and being a writer, and I journal a lot. And so these are what I'm not really is the Vipassana guy. I've done it. I've done my 10-day sit. I found it very austere, and it for my nature, right? For my nature, it was very, very challenging for me to sit like that. I suspect had the language been around when I was a kid, I would probably have been ADHD diagnosed. I'm like, that's come on, I don't want to sit still. What do you make me sit still for?
Well, when you say you journal, I've heard, you know, I journal, I mainly journal gratitude, and sometimes I'll just go off, right? A lot of people talk about journaling. What is it that you journal specifically? Is there a specific topic, or you just say what's on your mind and you just put it on paper?
Well, I go to it firstly as a morning practice. So a little bit like, wow, I'm forgetting the name. There's a fabulous book about this process. And again,
Miracle Mornings? Is it Miracle Mornings?
It's not Miracle Mornings. I'm aware of that, but it's just like I write until the writing is exhausted, or I might try for 3 pages, however long that takes, because there's layers that come out as I get further into it, and it gets to a point where my subconscious is writing, and it's like, oh, I got kind of curious. I didn't even know I thought that or felt that, and so the stream of consciousness space comes out, and that's the intention is to go into that openness, not to be directed. There's other times when I go in and I will use directed processes to, if I'm working with a conflict resolution, then I've got a tool called the Magi process that's available online that I go to, and that's a written process. If I'm inviting a story forward, or in my creative writing process, then it's a little like I narrow the banks of the river a little bit, and I invite spiritual guidance, and I go through meditation for the purpose of dropping away from my intellectual mind to connect with my heart mind or higher wisdom, and inviting the stories to come through. And that's very, very much what the writing process looks like for me.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. A question regarding like your business side of things. And I say this because we've talked about being creative, right? And there's a lot of people listening that are creating things. I know specifically some people are creating Etsy stores, things like that. And, writing their own books, all that kind of stuff, courses, online courses. And you have your books, right? Or do you go through a lot of anxiety, or even a little bit, just like trying to get it out there and sell more, and get it out to more people? And maybe part of it is making more money, maybe part of it is helping more people. Like, do you go through that often?
I have done. So I would say I've got a solid 6 years of that. I think in 2015, when I moved to the States, up until about October last year, that was very real for me, because in startup mode, which I consider all of that season to have been, I was trying to work it out. I'm fiercely independent, which is a good attribute for building a collection like this, but it's not necessarily a good attribute for growing a business. And so I took on a lot of different things, and then I found myself with roles that were a long way outside of my genius zone. And if the one thing's going to create stress, that's sure to do it. And so my encouragement to the creatives out there is keep creating, but try and stay in your genius zone as much as you can. And it's paradoxical, because I really did need to wear the hat of salesman, of warehouse manager, customer service, website designer, strategist, bookkeeper, all of those things were the journey has unfolded in a way that I could have hoped for, but not quite foreseen, which is to find the right operational partners who know how to do the things that, like I just listed, that free me up to be the creative. But it's been 6 years. So people. I love that statement which says it takes a lot of hard work to become an overnight success.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a good one.
Yeah.
The reason I was asking that was more of my curiosity, because sometimes I'll go into like stress and anxiety mode, like, oh, I got to get this out more. I need more people to see this. I'm not growing fast enough. There's not enough. I'm not selling enough, and then I got to come back to, like, I don't know, come back to reality, or come back to my present moment, and just say, I just need to do these things and the rest will unfold. Right. And try to release some of that anxiety and some of that stress. And I was just wondering if, you did that, and how you went through it. Because we talked about that, the fighting, the struggling, the pushing, the trying, and then all of a sudden just surrendering, right? Does that play in every aspect of our life? Does that play into business? Does that play in, parenting, relationships? Is it everything,
Right.
know?
I mean, yes, COVID in a way was my surrender at the 6-year point. It was, I had my last pre-COVID intention was to pack up a U-Haul full of books, drive out to Southern California, and do the Southern California farmers market circuit, which I truly enjoy, because it's conversational and it's a lot of fun. It's also a ton of heavy lifting, and it's focused on bread and butter, as opposed to the creativity that I still, that's what brings me the joy. And so it's like I can get some joy over here, but the big joy is partitioned into that small section that I spoke about right at the beginning, because I'm trying to pay the bills by selling some books, and farmers market seemed like a way that I could do that.
Yeah.
And then 5 minutes after I unpacked my U-Haul in Encinitas, COVID hit. And wow. Every farmers market closed, and the strategy that I had sort of grasped at and hustled at as my next best strategy that I knew how to do fell away, and I took a sigh, like the character, the hug that did. I stopped wriggling, I stopped squirming, I stopped fighting, and I got an apartment in Sedona, and I sat down. And I kind of looked around and said, oh, I guess I'm doing solitude now. I wonder what will happen with my business. I don't really know. And the next thing that happened was Zoom story times, right? And they just started happening. We'd never done story times before on Zoom. Nobody was on Zoom. I'd have to travel to schools to do story times. Now schools came to me, and said, "Can we do a story time?" We don't know how to run class at that stage online. Nobody knew. We all working it out. And
neat.
And story times led to families hearing about it, and families hearing about it led to some sales, and the website started doing things that it at a level that it had never done before, and opened up different conversations. And then, and then the partnership emerged, and now it's like that tipping point has happened, and I can create more. So,
all because of, I mean, it's like, you know, I don't know. I hate this put like, I don't hate it, but putting positive twists on COVID happening. You know, like that's wild. I mean, that's the power of the internet there too, right? You probably expose yourself to that. Oh, you know what? This is a good time. All right, come on in.
come on,
Come here,
come say
buddy.
hi.
All right, come here. Come say hi. I told her that I was having you on. Come here. She's being shy. Let's see if we can get her.
Well, like you go for it.
Let me see if I can unplug this here. Hey, Arya. 1 second. Speaker, MacBook Pro. There. Hey, Arya, come here. Want to come or no? If not, I'll keep talking. Would you like to come in and say hi?
I want to know what your favorite book is.
I tried. Okay, come on. Here, go ahead. Here we go. So this is Arya.
My name's Andrew. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, this is Andrew. What book did we read? The Hug book?
You got that?
Did you like it?
Mm-hmm.
And The Boy Who Searched for Silence?
We actually haven't read that one yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've been reading the Hug one over and over.
That's right. I mean, let me give you a quick tour of the Hug Factory, because I know that you know that page, but here it is. Here's the little hugs coming in the door of the heart. They come all the way up here. That's full of love, and they're glowing their love. The love gets caught on the solar panels. The solar panels fill up the big green battery with love energy. That then makes the light shine where baby hugs are growing in trees with a special watering system that waters them with stardust, and that's rainbow light, and that's warm, fuzzy feelings. And then here they get encoded because they got picked. They come through here, they get encoded with love and care, and they go zooming out here. There's a little barcode scanner there, like at the grocery store, like bleep, bleep. And then, so that we can count how many hugs, because you see right at the back, we've got our hug meter. You know that sign which says, remind us to being a great hug. And then I love the daily hug meter right at the back of this story, where we can count. Virginia Satir said we need 4 hugs a day to survive, 8 to maintain, and 12 to thrive. So how many hugs have you had today?
How many hugs have you had today? How many do you think? How many? At least, what, 5 maybe?
Dogs definitely count. You can cuddle with your dog.
She's the best. Yeah, is there anything you want to say to Andrew?
No.
Is there anybody that you're growing a hug for right now?
Are you growing a hug for anybody?
Maybe you haven't seen them in a little while, but you want to grow a hug for them, for when you see them.
Who, honey? Oh, me? Maybe Uncle Nate?
And what special ingredients are you going to put into your hugs? There's sometimes I like to put like peanut butter, jelly bean, and kindness into my hugs, because then it's like flavored really nicely.
What do you think? Any flavors you want to put in your hug? You're so silly. She's just
Well, I'm glad I got to ask you, and I'm so delighted to meet you. And you can think about that. And when you're reading the story tonight with Dad again, and you did the breathing together at the beginning, then he's going to say, what special ingredients did you put into your hugs? And then maybe you've got I think it's going to be candy floss.
Well, I'll have to let you know what ingredients she comes up with when we read that again. I think she right now is, what do they call it? Like celebrity shock or whatever, you know, I mean, is a real life celebrity right now.
Get out of here. I'm just a guy who writes some books. Here,
let me plug this back in, Arya. All right, thanks. I love you.
Thanks for coming to say hi.
Say bye. Say bye, Andrew.
Bye.
Bye.
See you later. And close the door. Thanks.
We can do story time together at some stage, and I do story times online, and they're always announced on my newsletter. And I'd love for you to come and hang out at some stage and watch that on Zoom.
You want to do that? Okay, cool. We will. Can we close it for me, honey? Thanks. Thanks for that, Andrew. That was cool.
And would it come really in, or do you know where my headphones
No, I'm not sure, honey. I'll get asked mama. Okay. All right. Look at that. Oh, check in the basement in the basement. All right. Part of podcast life, you know. I told her to come interrupt when she wanted to, because I wanted her to say hi.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So it's so nice to meet her, and to welcome in her shyness a little bit. And it's tricky when there's a little bit of a rush and a kind of like a new guy, but she did great with that, didn't she?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love it. I think that it's cool. Just she's just naturally a little shy, and to see just the courage to come in and just say hi.
Yeah.
It's cool to see as a parent.
And then also to watch. So I mean, I led with story quickly. I wanted to bring her into the story. That's our common ground that I share with her, and we don't know each other, is the hug story. So that this is one of the powers of story, is that it shifts us from this perspective where we're kind of head to head. You're a parent, you're saying, brush your teeth, put your pajamas on, get ready for bed. You've got rank over her in that moment, and you're in front of her energetically. It's like face-to-face instructional. I need you to do these things. And then we enter into the world of story like we just did together, and it's almost like we shift, and we're side by side. We get to go on this journey together. I feel her shoulder rubbing up against mine, or can imagine the two of you curled up in bed together, and the two of you go on a journey side by side together that you share, and that's that little shift is one of the reasons that one of the mechanisms for creating safety. And I don't know, do you find that she opens up and starts asking you a whole lot of questions at night, or starts chatting about things she hasn't been talking about?
Oh, 100%. Like that's the time. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, if she's just back from school, you'd be like, you really want to hear about her day, and you ask her and you get crickets. You get nothing. How was school? But when you're trying to put her to sleep, it's like, let's go. Now I want to talk about it. And I want parents to anticipate that. I don't want us to fight against it. I want us to go that actually there's an important thing that's happening in this moment that if we prepare ourselves for, and we can actually look forward to this. Like, I really wonder what curiosity is going to come out of my little one this evening as we create the safety, as we create the togetherness. We've done the breathing. We've gone on a journey together. This is them in a certain way discharging their day in a very natural process, and it helps their transition so that then they can go into sleep and feel like safe, feel loved, feel like they belong, feel like any moments in the day when they didn't feel safe, loved, and belong have somehow been repaired or restored by your loving presence that comes in at that time.
Yeah, and the word loving presence comes to mind there when you say that. Just the presence of being there when this moment is happening and it's occurring. I think it's super important. I want to retouch on that, because you've said it a few times. The nighttime, I want to retouch on, like, you're doing it anyway. Like, you're being there with your child anyway for those 10 or 15 or 20 minutes. So why not just be fully there and fully present in the moment, and give as much of that loving presence as you can during that time. And then when you're done, then, go do your thing. It's just so much of our mind wants to play tricks on us and just keep pushing the future. All right, come on, let's go. Okay, let's finish this book. Let's go to the, you know what I mean?
Right. Let that be your meditation. Let that be your spiritual practice. One of the things that makes it challenging for us, and we don't talk about, is it's a time when there's a transition in speeds. And there's a transition in speeds for your little one's speed, and your speed might be different, right? And whenever we're at different speeds, we kind of rub up against each other a little bit. So anticipate it. Allow yourself to slow down for that moment. Allow yourself to be encouraging of slowing down. That's what you're asking of their body-mind system. You want them to slow down from day, prepare for transition into rest, where it appears that a lot less happens. And and isn't that what half of our meditations are? When we sit down on our mat, or we just close our eyes to take a few deep breaths. It's slowing down. So your little ones are just going, hey guys, I've got a meditation time for you. It's called bedtime. Come and help me with it.
Yeah. And and as a parent, it's our role to help slow them down, get them slowed down and not, get them all riled up at the very end of the day too, probably, or at the last, half hour of the day.
Right.
Sense.
So let's talk about mirror neurons. If you're running fast and they're running slow, you're going to send them a mixed message.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to say to them, I want you to go to sleep. Quickly. I want you to quickly go to sleep. The language is cross-channel. So the breathing again is a way that you get to slow your system down. And you spoke about how in some way, how do we model to our kids what we want them to learn? If you want your kids to be readers, then they need to see you reading. If you want your kids to be meditators, they need to see you meditating. If you want your kids to be connected to the divine, they need to understand your connection to the divine. I see kids as being desperate's not quite the right word. They're designed to seek love, and the fastest way to get love is to copy the person who gives them love. Right? So the more they can be like you, it's a mechanism in order to get your approval and your love. Mm-hmm. And so that means you're sitting as a parent with a huge mixture of responsibility and power, and also an effortlessness if you choose it, because this is going to happen no matter what you do. This is going to happen. If you're good dad, she learns what good dad is. If you're bad dad, she learns what bad dad is. There's nothing you need to do to control that. Your only thing to do is to choose good dad or bad dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. Thank you for sharing that. That was a value dropping right there. Thank you. I guess, what, in the intro, I will mention your website, which is consciousstories.com, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So Andrew has consciousstories.com. That's where you can buy all the books, or you can get pinged with his Instagram ad like I did and feel like I needed to buy it. And I did. And I'm glad I did, because then I read it and the kids love it. And now I met Andrew and it's great. And now you're getting some value from him. So that all worked out. The Instagram universe was like, buy this. So hopefully you're profiting on your cost versus revenue on those. I know how that goes as an internet marketer. But yeah, so you can go there. And also, Andrew, where can we follow you?
So Instagram and Facebook on Conscious Bedtime Stories. Okay. That's the handle for both of them. Yeah, there's a newsletter sign up on our website that will tell you about online story times, also plug you into resources. The website has downloadable coloring pages. It also has classroom teaching aids that are being built very kindly for me based on the Common Core curriculum. Just little layers to help turn the stories into social emotional tools that can help with development.
Yeah, I love that. And also, what time are these? How often are you doing these bedtimes or these nighttime stories, and what time are they usually at?
I haven't set up the 2021 schedule yet. We did one just pre-Christmas, which was the last one, and I'm open. There is an invitation to communities and schools that if you've got a group of 10 or 15 kids and you want me to come and do a Zoom story time, reach out through support@consciousstories.com, and I will receive that and be able to schedule a time with your group and so that we can do something fun together.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. I love doing that, and I love sort of getting to meet and hear how the stories are going. And then time zones are interesting because we have folks joining in South Africa. I have folks in West Coast of America, and it's kind of like you cannot do bedtime at the same time for both of those. So they've often been 9:30 in the morning Pacific, and then we try and find a gap like 5 or 5:30 in the evening. But I do know that the evening wind down process almost needs its own attention in the home, and it's quite difficult to interrupt for computers at that time.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so we just go to your site, get on the newsletter, and you'll be informed with all of that information. When you, the question, and I kind of prefaced this in an email I sent to you, but if you could go back and tell your 18-year-old self anything and you would listen, what would you say to them? What would you say to him?
Firstly, I love the caveat that he would listen. I'm not sure he would, but
you have to put that in there, especially as a male, like totally.
I know that 18-year-old me needed encouragement, and I've learned the skill of encouragement quite recently, actually. I don't think I knew how to do it, mostly because I didn't get very much of it. So if anyone wants to learn the skill of encouragement, this is your guru here, Conscious Discipline, the work of Dr. Becky Bailey, an incredible body of work. And I would say to him, and this language is carefully curated, I would say, you did it. It was hard. You finished high school. You're loved. You're welcome. And you'll get to do things.
You'll get to do things.
You'll get through things.
Get through things.
There was a sense of at that time needing to get through things, and so I would say that, and I would make that language very carefully. If I say to you, Justin, you did it, then your internal mechanism hears, I did it. So my you language becomes your internal I language, and this is the skill of encouragement. It's if I say to you, I think you did a great job, I'm actually taking your great job away from you because I think. So I just drop the I and I let go of me. It's nothing to do with me. I want to deliver you encouragement. You're doing an amazing job with this podcast, Justin. You're speaking with a whole incredible range of people, and you're serving a deep, wide community need. Well done. Way to go.
Thank you, Andrew.
How did it feel?
It felt good. It was a great compliment. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Instead of, I think you are doing. Oh, that's interesting. Never even thought about that.
Yeah, I never thought about it either. I learned it in the last year from the work of Conscious Discipline. So another resource that I share whenever I can because it's.
That's a good book. Well, you know what? One thing to relate to that is, as a meditation teacher, using the words we and you. So, it's so speaking directly to that person instead of saying it as like a group. So using that word you instead of let's or we or something like that, which is another piece of that. So that's interesting. But I never thought about the other side of it that you just mentioned. Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate it, Andrew. This was it's an hour. I want to honor your time and say thank you so much for bringing your wisdom and your presence to this conversation. Truly appreciate it.
Yeah, a great pleasure, Justin. I truly love what you're creating as well, and thank you for helping me and being an ambassador for the work of Conscious Stories and serving the community that's following you.
Thanks.